Why a laundromat? A laundromat was both a de facto community space, but also an engine for generating revenue. And so the Laundromat Project's vision is about cultural autonomy.
We wanted to create something that would have a life of its own in the most beautiful way.
It is malleable, it moves and it shifts with people, it breathes life. It is deeply reflective, deeply responsive.
What it's evolved into is this collection of human beings who each have the capacity to have a tremendous ripple effect in their community. I'm Risa Wilson, founder of the Laundromat Project. You know, when you talk about an organization's origin story, sometimes it can seem like something just sprouted up, right, overnight. I think it's important to say that the Laundromat Project was born of a lot of iteration. I was maybe 22, 23 when I began blueprinting the Laundromat Project. It was a social enterprise. We had a building, you know, we owned the laundry. And what I heard over and over and over again is, could you be smaller? Could you just maybe do a little project? I could either make that my project, educating the field, or I could do the work. And so after so many no's, finally got a yes to do the work.
Generosity and abundance are the ethos of the Laundromat Project, and it always has been that way since the beginning. The Laundromat Project was not possible without all of the people past and present that continue to grow the organization.
The early days of the LP felt very much like a dream coming true. Risa's energy was infectious, just really engaged. She could see what this organization, this idea could become. She really inspired me and the other board members to want to help bring that into being.
So the early days were very physically taxing, right? The weekday workshop, the weekend workshops, the weeknight workshop, like there was just a lot.
We didn't know if laundromat owners would let us in and let us make art in their space. We didn't know what the artists would need to feel like they could be successful at what they were doing.
I have like vivid memories of like spending Saturday or Sunday mornings with Petrushka and these other LP fellows in this corner room on 4th Avenue in the Lower East Side with a bag of groceries from like Whole Foods or somewhere, which was like our kind of potluck vibe, where we just sit down, eat a bunch of food and sort of vibe out and like work out the problems of their project.
I think everybody was happy to do it because they understood the bigger picture and the impact that we were having on both artists and also our local communities in New York.
It felt like we had finally found an organization that was trying to do what we were doing. They were trying to figure out how to support artists who are working in right relationship with communities. We were working on this project on the systemic crisis of housing when in 2008 we were hit with the sort of largest financial crisis in a generation. And so the project took on a sudden relevance that we didn't anticipate.
I worked with them way back in 2007. It was early days, and really, I think they saved my career. I think it came in at a point where I needed to understand that there were others who thought about art in the way I do, which is community-based and based in love. So I wanted to share my love of reading. And I made a bench out of books, and then we invited people to donate books and gave books away. And it was really a fascinating experience to be directly at a laundromat, on a corner, in my neighborhood, talking to folks. That's magical.
The mission of the Laundromat Project has never been about centering art for the sake of art. It's always been about how do we use art as the sort of centrifugal force around our togetherness and how we can exist in community together.
One of the things that I am most proud of with the Laundromat Project is that it exists without me. When I finally could hire a full-time executive director, that felt like a huge milestone, not only for the Laundromat Project, but for me.
She had always made it clear that she really didn't want to take on the role of executive director formally. She was doing the work. And I was ready to make a particular commitment that would take us to the next level. I sort of pegged it as a 10-year job for me from the day I took the job. So I had this vision, okay, what can I do in 10 years? From day one, the Laundromat's core signature program was the Create Change residency. So one of the first things that Petrushka and I got to do together was actually hiring someone to help us codify the work and deepen the work's community responsive aspects. And the person that shone, like just her light, her care, the depth of her knowledge and vision was Ebony Noel Golden, appropriately named. And we worked with her for my entire 10 years in running and creating a curriculum around Create Change. So sometimes beautiful surprises come about. In 2014, our group of artists in the Bronx, in the South Bronx, developed a partnership with a garden club on Kelly Street. A woman named Tiana, who turns out to be part of the landlord unit for Kelly Street, left us a message saying, our tenants have told us about having this really incredible experience with some of your artists over the summer. We have an apartment. Maybe we could figure out how to do something with this apartment together. What do you think? I immediately lit up, oh my God, okay. So it felt like kismet. Here was an opportunity to actually embed in a community, which was the original dream.
I'm Cheryl Durant, and I'm the resident garden manager for Kelly Street Garden here in the South Bronx. I remember when the Laundromat Project was here. And actually, they're kind of still here if we're still connected to people. But one of the things that has come out of the collaboration with the Laundromat Project during the years they were here was that our programming always includes art. So it was a no-brainer for me. A mural that can tell a story about the animals in the garden or the people who intersect in the garden. Working on a project that was both beneficial as well as beautifying the garden, the Scarecrow Project, making wind chimes. We learn about our community members, we become friends with our community members, we develop a deep understanding and empathy for our community members. It is important for organizations like Kelly Street Garden and the Laundromat Project to be in collaboration and partnerships because we drill down into communities. We are right beside our community members.
It feels so good to be in a laundromat. It's reminding me of all the things that we were thinking about when we were trying to figure out where the Laundromat Project was going to move in 2020.
I recall having a great deal of conversations and debates on whether or not we should move from Kelly Street, stay in Harlem, or move to Bed-Stuy. And we were trying to figure out where our artist community were, where the majority were.
Right. Part of the challenge was that we had this deep, multi-dimensional plan to sort of do community listening tours and really sort of responsibly move into the community and activate our relationships there. But then COVID hit.
Right.
So we decided to lean into being an anchor in the storm. We turned our social media feed into a space of resources. We were sending out information. This is where you can get rental assistance. This is where you can get mental health services, whatever that was. And of course, by the time March rolled around, we were in the George Floyd summer after his murder. All of those needs were only even further amplified. And we just kept showing up for our larger community. We were only maybe a month into our Create Change cohort that year, and we quickly decided that we would keep going.
So it was 2019 into 2020. We were that awkward COVID hybrid year. And so one of the things we started considering at that time, and it carried through to the time that I was a resident, was how do we cultivate the kind of intimacy that had existed in the community that felt like it was lost during COVID?
We all could have shut down completely, like not just the organization, but ourselves individually. but it was just this determination to see that there were people that needed someone to advocate for them, to walk alongside them as they were trying to navigate through the chaos that was happening around us.
Some people might have questioned whether we should move forward with the storefront in 2020, given all the change that was happening and what a risk it might have felt like, but it really wasn't a question for us.
Something that I've always admired is the fact that the organization has kept the name Laundromat Project, regardless of its current or future relationship to laundromats, because there is just something sort of that says home in laundromats.
20 years of Laundromat Project, this is an interesting trajectory because it feels like now more than ever, the time put in to build this institution that is still doing the work in a way that is grounded in community, ground level, Black folks, brown folks, queer folks.
The LP invites us as artists to rethink and reimagine our role, to think of our role as one of healing, as connecting, as inviting communities to embody the future that they imagine.
It is a great stress reliever to have art in my life as an adult, because it breaks away from structure and the everyday things of being an adult.
In the early days, it was about us saying, hey, this is an organization that stands for these values and is working with these change makers, but there was a lot to prove. And I think at this point in the present day, it has been proven, and looking forward in the future 20 years, I think that the Laundromat Project has the ability and power to affect policy change in our local communities in New York, and also be a model for how nonprofits can do that work.
I think walking in the footsteps of Black women leaders and getting to create a space where we get to nurture future Black women leaders as well is a privilege, is an honor, but it's also an affirmation that anything is possible, that there are no limits to what we can do.
It feels like so much of what we do is under attack right now, but the LP has a history of visionary leaders who have led us through difficult times before and will continue to lead us.
Whatever is happening in the world, whatever is happening in our backyards 20 years from now, I feel 1,000% confident that the LP is going to be holding up a mirror to what is generative, to what needs to shift, and helping to create a pathway to making those shifts.
There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who've created this thing that is the Laundromat Project, and it's a moment to honor them and acknowledge them for what they've poured into the organization. It's a moment to acknowledge the organization for the resilient entity that it is, that it has existed, small but mighty, now mighty but true.
Legacy for me is about making space for other folks to share their talents. So Laundromat Project for me is my love letter to my ancestors.